In this video, I'm going to show you how to build this entire budget tracker dashboard from scratch, where you're able to log your income and expenses and be able to see your total monthly income, expenses, as well as profit. You're able to link them to a bank account, which will show your total bank balance. You're able to manage and track all of your subscriptions, which will show on this calendar view. You're able to see how much you've earned each month for each of your income sources and how much you've spent each month for each of your expense sources. You have this budget tracker section where you can allocate certain percentages of your monthly income, which will give you a monthly budget and show you how much you are under or over budget. And you can add goals for your income sources and monthly budgets for expense sources, which will show how much you have remaining and whether or not you've achieved your goal or reached your limit. And you're able to visually see the state of your finances with this overview section and these charts, as well as this income chart that shows how much you've earned each month for each of your income sources and how much you've spent each month for your expense sources. Now this video is quite long, which is why I split it up into 5 parts, so feel free to skip around to any section that you would like. And if you just want to save yourself some time and get this dashboard for yourself, then be sure to click the first link in the description, as well as watch the walkthrough video, which will also be linked down below. And with that out of the way, let's start building. Alright, so on a new page, which you can just create by clicking this button, we've added a name and an icon, and I'm also going to change this page to full width. And then we're going to start with our first database. So just type in /table, create a new database, and this will be our finance tracker. And I'm just going to delete this tag property, and I'm also going to add a callout box, name this finance tracker, and then drag and drop this inside. Make sure that the callout box is set to the default background, and then just highlight this text. Make it bold, underline it, and change the text color, as well as give it an icon. So I'm just going to give it a green money icon, and then we can go ahead and hide the database title. Alright, so first we're going to add all the properties for this finance tracker database, and then we're going to move on to the other databases, and then after that we'll add the views and the filters and make everything look nice. So for this finance tracker database, we're going to add 2 number properties. This one is going to be the income amount. I'm just going to add a dollar symbol. And then here in the number format, I'm going to change this to US dollar. And then we're going to do the same for the expenses. So expense amount, and then also change this to the dollar value. Then I'm just going to resize these, and I'm going to add in a date property. So yeah, this will be for the date. And then I'm also going to add in a select property, which will be type. And then for this one, we want to add income, and we also want to add expense. And then we can just color these. So this one can be red, this one can be green, and this we will use in order to filter between the income and expenses. And then the last property we're going to add before we create the other databases is going to be to calculate the profit. So for this formula, we're just going to take the income amount and then just subtract the expense amount from that. And we're going to also edit this property and change it to the US dollar value or whatever currency you're using. And then here, if I add in some values, you'll see that it is plus 500. If I add 100 for the expenses, you'll see it's minus 100. And this formula we can then use to calculate the profit on the monthly view. All right, now we still need 3 more properties for the finance tracker database, but those are going to be relations to the databases that we're going to create now. So let's create this first one, which is going to be income sources. We're just going to delete this tag property. Next one is going to be expense sources, and then the final one is going to be the bank accounts database. So just go ahead and create the bank accounts database, and then we're also going to just remove the tag properties for these and also just put them inside of callout boxes. Alright, so now that we've created our 3 databases, we can go ahead and add some values. So I'm just going to do Gumroad and YouTube as an example here, and delete this one. Expenses, let's do food, and let's also do software. I'm going to delete this one, and then bank accounts, I'm going to do debit. Oops, I'm going to do debit, and let's say PayPal, and delete this one. Now we're going to go back to our finance tracker, and then here we're just going to add another property, which will now be a relation, and we're going to relate this to these databases. So this first one is going to be income sources, make it show up on both of them. Add relation, and as you can see, these 2 are now connected. So if I select this one, then we can now select one of these 2 properties. So I can link this database entry to Gumroad, for example, and I can link this one to YouTube. and it will now show here. So if I title these 1, 2, and 3, you'll see that they are now linked with each other. And we're going to do the same thing for expense sources, and then we're also going to do it for the bank accounts. So just add another relation, bank accounts, and make it show up on both of them. And yeah, once all of them are connected, we can now go ahead and create the properties for these different databases. All right, so for the income and expense sources, we're going to add a rollup. So the rollups will allow you to use property information from a related database. So in this case, we want to have the total. So that's what we're going to find out here. So basically, we're going to select the finance tracker relation, which is this one, and we're going to select which property from this related database we want to use. So for the income sources, we want to use the income amount, and then we want to calculate the total. So more options and then sum, and then it will calculate the total. So if I go ahead and this one, let's say we add 1000 here, and I unlink it from YouTube and link it to Gumroad again, then it will show the total here underneath Gumroad. And then we're going to do the same for the expense sources. So let's just link this one to software, and it should show up here. And then let's just go ahead and add the rollup. This will also be total. Same thing, we select the finance tracker database, the expense amount this time, and then we're also going to go to more options and then just click on sum, and then it will show the total for each of the expense sources. And then the last one is going to be bank accounts. So let's just link these to bank accounts. So let's say this one was with a debit card. The software was with PayPal. This one was also debit. Then we can go ahead here and add a rollup, and same thing, total, go to relation, select the finance tracker, and then here we want to select the profit and then calculate more options and then sum. Now let's go ahead and do the same for the bank accounts database. So we're going to go here and then just link these to our bank accounts, and then we're going to go to the bank accounts database, add a rollup, which will be to calculate the total. We're going to select the finance tracker relation, and this time select the profit property, and then calculate and then sum, because we want the total. And yeah, there we go. Now we got the total for each of them. But for the bank accounts database, we're going to add 2 more properties. So the second property we're going to add is just going to be a number property, which is going to be called start. And this is also going to be in the US dollar value or whatever currency you're using. And this will be the amount that you have in your bank account when you start using this database or this finance tracker. And then the other one is going to be a formula, which will be the bank balance. And this one will basically just take the start amount and then just add the total to it. And then this one is also going to be US dollar. So here you can see your total bank balance. So as you can see, we started with $2,000. We added another 1.5, and now we have 3.5 in this debit card. And that's all the properties that we're going to add to our databases. So now let's just make everything look nice and then add filters and views to all of them. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a database entry on each of the databases and then just show the relation as minimal. Otherwise, it is going to show all of them, which will be a lot after a while. So just click on this, go to show as, and then select minimal. And then what I'm also going to do is I'm going to add icons for them. So for Gumroad, let's just do this cart icon, and then YouTube is going to be a play icon. So let's just get the play button, and yeah, basically just add icons for all of them. And then for the bank accounts, what I usually do is just add a credit card like icon, but then just change the color. So let's say, for example, debit is red, and then we can go ahead and make PayPal blue. So just do that. And yeah, expense sources, same thing, just add icons. So let's just go to food and maybe make a green Avo emoji. And then for software, it is going to be the software icon, and this one I'm just going to make blue. And once you've added icons for all of them, you'll see that here on the finance tracker database, everything now looks a lot nicer. And for our finance tracker, we're also going to add icons, but not through opening up the database entries, but by clicking on this drop down next to new and clicking on new template. So we're going to add template buttons. So we're going to add an icon. This one is going to be for the income. And this is just, you can either use this one or this, like it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to use this one. You want to leave the name untitled, otherwise you're going to have to remove the name every time you add a database entry. So just have an untitled like template button with an icon. And then for the income view, which we'll create later, we'll set this one as default. And then for the expenses, let's just go ahead and add a expense one. And yeah, that way you have your like icons that will be added automatically. And for each of them, we actually also want to just add in expense or income. So let's go to the income as well, and then just add in income here. And yeah, now we can use these template buttons to automatically add icons when we create the income and expense views. But before we do that, let's just go ahead and add icons for all of these. So I'm just going to add a money icon for both of the income and expense amounts. The date property, I'm just going to add this calendar icon. The type, I'm just going to do a different money icon. So I'm going to use this one. For profit, I'm going to use this chart icon. Income sources is going to be the up icon. What's happening here? So this is going to be the up icon, and expense sources is going to be down. And then for bank accounts, I'm just going to select the bank icon. Now I'm also going to open up this database entry, and then here I will just reorder them. So I'm going to do date, bank account, and then let's do income first. So income amount and sources, expense amount and sources, profit here at the bottom, and then also the type. And then while I'm here, I can just as well click on this template button, and you'll see that it will load the icon for it. And let's just do this for expenses as well. And let's make this one also income. So the first one is going to be a table view. And this one, we're just going to hide this. We're going to rename this to today. And then we're just going to add this plus icon. And for the properties, we can also just click here to remove them. So I'm just going to click on expense, hide this one, hide the type, hide the profit, and also the expense sources. And then we're just going to keep these. So we want to add the date at the end. So income amount, income source, bank accounts, and then the date property. And then let's just go ahead and add today's date for this one. And here you want to filter this to where the date is today. So where the date is today. And yeah, this way, if you add a new database entry here, it will automatically have today's date. And because this is the income view, we also want to click on this drop down, go to the income template button, and then just set this one as default. So now if you go ahead and add a new database entry here, it will automatically have today's date, the income icon, as well as the income tag here. And then also importantly for this view, we want to add another filter, which is going to be to filter the type to income, so that this view only shows the income database entries. And now what we're going to do is we're going to click on this view, click on duplicate, and then we're going to do the exact same thing for the expenses. So just add this minus icon, and then just change the filter from income to expenses. And then for this view, we also want to go to properties and then show the expense properties and just hide all of the income ones. So I'm just going to hide these, and there you go. Now if you add a new database entry here, after also setting the expense template button as default like that, then when you add a new database entry here, it will automatically have today's date, the expense icon, and also the expense tag. Alright, now that we've added the two views for adding new income and expenses, we can go ahead and create the monthly views. So we're actually just going to take this table view and then just change this to a list view. And then the name is going to be income. And I'm also going to change the icon to the upwards arrow. And then we're going to group this view to the date property. And then we're going to change this option to month. So we want to see the monthly groups. So as you can see here. And then for this view, we're also going to go to properties. And then we want to show the bank accounts property. We want to show the date property. And because this is the income view, we want to see the income amount and sources. So we're going to add the income amount here at the bottom, date property here. So bank accounts, income sources, income amount, and then the date property. And then for this view, we want to filter this to where the type is income. So it will only show the income. And then we also want to hide the no date group. And then for this one, we're also going to click on this group calculation option, and we're going to go to more options and then sum income amount. So we want to see the total income for the month. So for the month of September, we've made $500. If I edit this property and add in 1,000 here, then it will show 1,500. And while we're at it, let's just go ahead and link this one to YouTube and link this to PayPal. And also just mentioning that for all of these views, you can change it however you want it to look. The views, the grouping, the order of the properties, what properties you want to show. So you can always change it according to what you like and what you want to see. And also for these monthly views, you just want to sort this according to the date property and where it is descending. So if I go ahead and add a date in the future, then this one will show first. And then for this income view, you also just want to make sure that the income template button is set as default. And then for the expenses, we're going to do the same thing. So let's just go ahead and duplicate this database view and then just add in expenses as the name, change the icon, and then we're going to filter this from income to expenses. And then we're going to go to properties and we're going to show the expense amount and the expense sources and hide the income amount and income sources. So if we go ahead and just edit this and add in some values here, so add an expense source, let's do software, this one bank accounts, then you'll see that our expenses are now grouped under September. And for this one, we can also just go ahead and add in a date for it to show up. And then here for the total, we want to just change this from income to expense amount. So now this will show the total expenses for each month. And then for this one, we also just want to make sure that the expense template button is set as default. And now the last view we're going to add is for the profit. So we're just going to go ahead and duplicate one of these views. I'm just going to rename this to monthly. And then here add in a calendar icon. And then for this one, we want to remove this filter. So we want all of the database entries to show. And then here we also want to show the income and also the sources. So we want to show both of them. So if it has income sources, it will show, otherwise it will show expense sources. So it won't be double database entries. So we can just show both of them. And then here we want to calculate the total profit. So now as you can see, we can click on this income view to see our total monthly income. We can see our total monthly expenses and also our total monthly profit. And then for this monthly view, you also just want to set the empty template button as default. And then just before I forget, make sure to go inside of your database menu, go to group, and then just sort this according to the newest first. So September will show at the top, January will show at the bottom. So it just sorts the actual groupings according to the newest first. So just do that for all of them. So here as well, newest first, and then for the income one, you also want to sort it according to the newest first. All right, now that we've added all of the views for our finance tracker, let's go ahead and add the views for our income and expense sources, as well as our bank accounts database. So for the income and expense sources, we're going to click on the database menu. We're going to go to layout and then just change this to a gallery view. We're going to change the card preview to none and change the card size to small. And then for the name, we're just going to add a space to remove the name. We're also going to add an icon. And then here we just want to go to properties and then just show the total amount property. And let's go ahead and do the same for the expense sources. So just remove the name. We're going to add this icon, change it to gallery view, change the card preview to none, change the card size to small, and then just show the total on this view as well. And then for the bank accounts database, we're going to do the same thing. So let's just remove the name, add in this icon, change it to gallery view, change the card preview to none, change the card size to small. And then for this one, we want to show the balance. So we don't want to show the total, we want to show the balance. And yeah, that's pretty much it for these views. Now all that's left is to just create a multi-column layout. So because these databases are inside of callout boxes, we can just easily drag and drop these callout boxes next to each other like this, and then just resize them here and resize this. And there you go. That's pretty much it for this finance tracker. Now we're just going to continue and start building the subscription tracker. So obviously what you want to do is just create a new table view database, and this one is going to be called subscription tracker, and we're going to delete this tag property, and we're also going to put this inside of a callout box, which is going to be called subscription tracker. This is going to be bold, underlined, and the color is going to be blue. And I'm going to use this repeat icon and then also just hide the database title and drag and drop the database inside. All right, so the most important properties is going to be the date property, which is going to be for the renewal date, and then also the number property, which is going to be the amount. And this is going to be US dollar or whatever currency you're using. And then we're also going to add a select property, which is going to be the billing type. And here you want to add a monthly option, maybe a weekly option if you're going to do that, but I'm just going to do monthly and yearly. You can also do quarterly, and then I'm also going to do cancelled and paused. And this is optional, but you can also add another one, which is just going to be normal type. And here you can specify whether it's software, is it living expenses, is it something personal? So you can sort of tag them and specify which type of subscription it is. And the way I personally do it is, let's say this is Wi-Fi, let's say this is rent, and let's say this is our Notion subscription. I always color code these. So for all the personal stuff, I just make it green so that I can quickly see just at a glance in terms of the color what type of subscription it is. So these would be green, and then Notion would be blue because it's a software. So you can just sort of choose what color you want to represent what. So I have software would be blue, personal would be green. So let's just change this to green. Software would be blue. I guess this would be green. Let's just keep these two. And yeah, if you have more, if you have stuff with your brand or a different business or this thing or that thing, then you can just color code them so that you can quickly see, okay, all the green ones are my personal subscriptions and all the blue ones is software, all the red ones is XYZ, etc. So I'm also going to quickly add in the type of subscription here. Now for billing type, let's just move these around, and I'm also going to change this one to red. I'm going to do this one green, and I'm going to do this one purple. And here we're just going to select what type of subscription it is. So I'm just going to do this one yearly, this monthly. This one, let's do $50. This one, let's do 500, and this one, let's do 120. And then for the renewal dates, let's just go ahead and add dates for them. And this one can be there, and this would be, let's say, at the end of the year. All right, now that we got some data to work with, we can go ahead and create the formulas which will calculate the monthly and yearly costs. So what you want to do is just go ahead and create a new formula property, and this one is going to be the monthly costs. What we're going to do is we're going to say if, and we're going to use the ifs function, if the billing type is and then cancelled, then show 0 because we don't want to show anything, it's inactive. Otherwise, if the billing type is paused, then also show 0 because we don't want to show anything. Otherwise, if the billing type is yearly, then we want to take the amount and divide it by 12 in order to get the monthly amount. Otherwise, if it's none of these and it's by default the monthly amount, then just show the amount. So this is first going to check whether it's cancelled, paused, or yearly. If it's none of these, then it's going to show the normal amount because then it would be monthly. But if you have more, if you have quarterly and weekly, for example, quarterly you just want to divide by 4 in order to get the monthly amount, and weekly you want to multiply with 4 to get the monthly amount. So you just adapt this. But yeah, once you have this, you can click on done. And then you also just want to change the number format to the US dollar. There you go. So as you can see, this one is $50 monthly, so it shows here, and this yearly one is 120, so we would be paying $10 per month for this one. And for the yearly cost, we're just going to take this formula, we're going to duplicate it, and we're going to just rename this to yearly costs, and then we're going to take all of this, just remove it, and then just choose the formula that we just created, the monthly costs, and we're going to multiply everything with 12. So as you can see, in 1 year, we would be paying this amount for the Wi-Fi, this amount for the rent, and the yearly subscription for Notion would be 120, which is what we have here as well. And now if you want to see the total monthly cost, you would just click on calculate here at the bottom, go to more options, and then click on sum. And then we can do this for the yearly cost as well. So in total, every month we would be paying this 560, and every year we would be paying this amount. Now the last property we're going to add is going to be a relation to our bank accounts database. So we're just going to find our bank accounts, which is going to be this one, and then we're going to make sure to show it on the bank accounts database, add relation, and if I open up this, then it should show here. Yep, there we go. So now we can go ahead and link these to a bank account. So the Wi-Fi, let's do this debit, and then we can do Notion to PayPal. And now if we open up our bank accounts, we can click on this relation and we can make it show as a page section. And then on this, we can choose to show the monthly costs or whatever you want. You can show the renewal date. You can show the billing type. So whatever properties you want to see, you can show it there. I'm just going to keep it like this. And this way you can just click on a bank account and see all of the subscriptions that's added on this bank account. And let's just also right click on this, click on rename, and then I'm also just going to give this an icon. I'm also going to give this one an icon. So let's just give the money icon to this one. So here it is. And then on the subscription tracker, I'm going to give a bank accounts icon to this. And this you can keep the same because it's not going to show on this view. I'm going to give a renewal date for this one, and this one I'm also going to give this money icon. Alright, now that we've added all of our properties, let's go ahead and create the views. So for this first one, I'm just going to add a space to remove the name and then just select an icon. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to properties and I'm going to hide the billing type. I'm going to hide the type, the yearly costs, the bank accounts, and also the amount. So I just want to see the monthly cost and the renewal date. And in this one, I'm also going to filter this to where the billing type is monthly or yearly, or you can do it the other way around where it is not cancelled or paused. Let's just go ahead and hide this filter. And then what we're going to do is we're going to create another view. So this is going to be a list view. Let's just hide the database title. And this one is going to be filtered to where the billing type is cancelled or paused. So let's just go ahead and create a new one. So let's do Adobe or something. Let's just open up this. And then here we would add an icon. So let's do the cloud icon for this one because that makes sense. And then we're just going to add in the amount. So let's do 60, bank account. This can be PayPal, renewal date. This can be in the past because it's cancelled, and then the type can be software. You can also drag these around however you want. You can also make the bank accounts show up here, but I'm just going to keep it as normal. And yeah, here you will be able to see all of your cancelled subscriptions. So let's just also remove the name. And then we're going to give this one a cancel icon. So actually let's do this block icon. And yeah, there you go. Now you'll be able to see all of your active subscriptions and also all of your canceled subscriptions. And here you also just want to go to properties and show the monthly cost property. Alright, so now that we've set up our subscription tracker, what we can now do is copy one of these views and then just at the bottom paste it as a linked view database and then change the layout to a calendar. And then this calendar, we want to put in a callout box, and this callout box we're just going to call calendar. And this one I'm going to make purple and then also give it a calendar icon and then just drag and drop it next to the subscription tracker. Now for this calendar, I'm also going to extend the width and I'm also going to shrink down these properties. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to go into layout and hide the vertical lines. And because this calendar view is a linked view database, meaning that we can change the source option. So this is the original database. It does not have that option, but this is a linked view. So what we can now do is we can click on this plus and then we can select another calendar. And here we can link an entirely different database. So in this case, I want to link the finance tracker. And then this is going to be a new view, the calendar view. I'm going to click on done and then just remove this, give this a calendar icon. And then here also just choose what properties to show. So I want to see the bank accounts property and also the profit. And then on the subscription tracker, I also want to show the same. So the bank account and then also the monthly costs. So if I scroll down, then here you can see that we got our subscription. And if there's a gap there, all you want to do is just go to properties, click on the name property, and then just untoggle the wrap in view option. And also something I forgot is to sort your subscription tracker according to the renewal date and ascending so you can see what subscription is coming up next. And yeah, that's pretty much it. You now have a calendar that shows your subscriptions and also your income and expenses. And what I'm also going to do is just drag and drop these databases here at the bottom and put them next to each other. And then I'm going to take the bank accounts database, put it on top of the subscription tracker, and also add an empty block in between. And there you go. Now you have a subscription tracker where you can keep track of your monthly and yearly subscriptions, and you can link them to a bank account. Now just keep in mind that the subscription tracker is a separate database, so it will not count as expenses. You'll have to still manually input them. Or what you can do is you can go ahead and create a button. So I'm just going to create a button which is going to be called subscriptions. And in this button, what you want to do is you want to add an action, and this is going to be to add pages to, and then you want to select your finance tracker database, and then here you want to use the expense template button. Then you want to edit the property, which is going to be the name property, and this is going to be the name of your subscription. So I'm just going to do Wi-Fi. The date is going to be the renewal date, so you want to here select a custom date. So you will have to manually update the dates every month, but then you can just click the button, everything will be loaded. It's still much faster. The bank account, you want to select whatever that bank account is, and then you also want to add an expense source, which is going to be software or whatever your source is, and then also the actual amount. So let's do $50, and then the type is going to be expense, but this is not really necessary because the template button that we're using already adds that in. So let's just make sure that it's this one, and yeah, then you just click on these three dots, click duplicate below, and then you just change this. So this will be rent, and this will be $500, and then you just change the renewal date. So let's do the 8th, and you just do this for all of your subscriptions, add them in once. And then every month you can just click on this button and it will add all of your expenses to your finance tracker. And then you would just edit the button and then just update the renewal date to the next month. So that's all manual input that you'll have to do. But yeah, then you just click this button and it's much faster and easier to add your subscriptions to your finance tracker. And yeah, that's pretty much it for part 2, the subscription tracker. And in part 3, we're going to be building this overview section. So this will show your total income, expenses, profit, and taxes for each year, as well as the total. And then you'll also be able to visually see your profit in a line chart, as well as your monthly income and expenses and also their sources. So let's go ahead and create a table view database, and this database is going to be called overview. And here we're just going to delete the tag property and then of course add a call it box, title this overview, drag and drop it inside, and then just make it bold, underline it, and change the text color to purple. And then we're also going to give it this chart icon and hide the database title. Alright, so the first property we're going to add is going to be a relation property to our finance tracker, and then we want to just make sure to show it on the finance tracker as well. And then let's also go ahead and give this an icon, and if I open up one of these database entries, then you should see the overview here. So let's just give this an icon, and then I'm also going to click on this and then make this show as minimal. Alright, so now in our overview database here, what you want is you want a total database entry and then also your current year. And then next year you would add next year, etc. And then basically the idea is that each year you link all of that year's database entries in your finance tracker to that year, which would be 2024 in this example. And then next year it would be 2025, but all of them relate to total. So here I'm going to relate all of these to total and 2024, but I'm not going to do it manually. And I'm also not going to use the bulk edit option. So what you can also do is on a table view, you can click on this, and then here you can bulk edit property. So I can go here, edit property, and then edit the overview property, the relation, but I'm not going to do that. I want to show you a different way. So the easiest way to bulk edit properties is through a button. So here I'm just going to add action, edit pages in, and then select this finance tracker database. And then the property that I want to edit is going to be the overview property. And in this case, we're not going to filter it, but next year, for example, let's say you forgot to update it, then you can filter it to where the date is 2025 and then only edit those properties. But in this case, I want to change all of them. So then I'm just going to select this overview property, replace with, and then select total and 2024. And now if I click on done, and click this button, let me actually just name this bulk edit and then give this a pencil icon. And if I now click on this, it will change the overview relation for all of these database entries to total and 2024. So as you can see, all of them shows up here. and all of these are now related with these two database entries. But for this overview section, just to make sure everything works, I'm also just gonna open up this one, and this one I'm going to remove from 2024 and add to 2025. So this database entry is not linked to this one, but it is to 2025, and it is also linked to total. So all three of these should show different values. And what you can do is you can create a callout box, which can be called quick create. And this you can just make bold, underline it. I'm going to change the color to orange. And then I'm also going to select the button icon. So I'm going to do this one, and then just drag and drop it next to this. Just resize it. And then here I'm going to add in this bulk edit button. And I'm also going to take this subscription button and add it in there as well. So you can basically just have like a mini callout box that has all of your buttons. So if you add more buttons in the future, then you just add all of these there. All right, now that our overview section is related to our finance tracker and we got some database entries, we can now go ahead and create the different properties. So the first property we're going to add is going to be a rollup, and this is going to show the total income. And here we want to select the finance tracker relation, select the income amount property, and then for the calculation, we want to select the sum option. So as you can see, it shows the total income for 2024, 2025, and also just total in general. Now there's a different way of getting this information as well. You can also use a formula. So let's do total income 2. And for this formula, what you would do is you would use a map function. So the map function allows you to go into a related database, and then here we would select the finance tracker relation, and then select comma, and then current, because we want to use properties in that database, add the dot, and then we can select what property we want to use. So in this case, it would be the income amount, and then here we just want to add a sum function at the end in order to get that value. And then we would just change this to the dollar amount. I'm sort of just showing you there are different ways of doing it. Usually it is better to do it with a formula because you can use this in other formulas, and this is already a number value. If you go one level higher, like let's say you have another database that is linked to overview, you can't use a rollup on a rollup. So you would have to create a formula as well. So yeah, it depends. For this example, for this video, I'm just going to keep it simple. I'm not going to use the formula. We're just going to use rollups, but sort of just wanted to show you that you can do that as well. So for this total income property, I'm also just going to add a plus icon, and then I'm going to duplicate this, and this I'm going to change to total expenses and add a minus icon. And then here for this one, I'm going to change from the income amount to the expense amount, and then also show the sum. The next property is going to be a formula, and this one is going to be to calculate the total profit. And for this one, I'm also just going to add a circle icon to sort of just match these. And here I'm going to take the income amount, and I'm going to subtract the expense amount from that, and then just also change this to the US dollar value. And this should give us the total profit for each of these three database entries. And then the last formula we're going to add is going to be for the taxes. And this one I'm also just going to give an icon, and this is going to be your profit formula multiplied with, and then whatever the amount of taxes is you pay. So let's say it's 40%, which is insane, but that is the case in some places. So then you just multiply the profit with 0.40, and then that will give you the tax amount. And there you go. Now you have also a formula that shows how much taxes you're paying. All right, now that we've added our 4 sections and also our relation, I'm going to change this to a gallery view, but we're not done with adding properties yet. It's just going to be easier and make more sense for you if we already use the gallery view instead of just a table view. All right, so I'm going to go inside of the database menu, go to layout, and then just change this to a gallery view, change the card preview to none, change the card size to small, and then just wrap all properties. Make sure that this option is selected. And then here I'm going to show everything except the relation. The income is going to be first, then the expenses, then the profit, and then the taxes. And then for this view, I'm also just going to rename this, and I'm going to remove the name by just adding a space, and I'm going to add this chart icon. And then what I'm also going to do is I'm going to open up this and then go to the relation and then just show the relation as minimal. Alright, so all the following properties are going to be formulas, and this first one is going to be for the total income text, or you can actually just say income text. And then here for the formula, I'm going to add in total income inside of quotation marks, and then add a style function in order to make it bold, in order to underline it, and also to change the text color to green. So now if I click on done, then we should have our total income text. And just to show you the reason we're using a formula and not a normal text property like this one. So let's say here I do the exact same thing, total income, and then I make this bold, underline it, and change the text color, is because if we go here and we go to properties and we show the formula, then it shows across all of them, whereas the text property will only show on this one because we only added it into this database entry. So that's the reason for using formulas and not a normal text property. Now for the expense text, we're just going to duplicate the income one and then just make sure that everything is in the correct order. And then we're going to rename this and we're going to call this expense text. And here we're just going to replace this with expenses. And we're also going to change the color to red. And then we can also go to our database and then inside of properties, just make sure to also show the expense text. Now let's go ahead and do the same thing for the profit. So I'm actually just going to duplicate this twice because we want to do it for taxes as well. So this first one will be for the profit. So let's just rename this to profit text. And then this one is going to be total profit. And here we're going to make the text color blue and then click on done. And then we're going to do the same for this one, which will be taxes text. And this one will be total taxes. And the color for this one will be purple or whatever color you want to use. And there you go. Now you have the text and also the amounts. So let's just go ahead and show the profit and the taxes text on the view as well. So let's just drag these in. And there you go. Now all that's left is to just add spaces in between all of these. So in order to add a space, we're again just going to use a formula. So this will just be space 1. And then this formula is just going to be literally a space inside of quotation marks. And then we just add that in, move this around, duplicate it, and then just move that there, change this to a 2, duplicate it again, put that there. And then just repeat this process for all of these. And yeah, you can do it at the end as well. It's not really necessary, but it does look a little bit better. So I'm going to do it again. And then you just want to go inside of properties and then just make sure to show all of these in the correct order. And there you go. Now you have spaces. Wait, this one isn't correct. This needs to be like that. And this one there. There we go. So now you have your gallery view, which shows your total income, expenses, profit, and taxes. You have spaces in between, the amounts, and yeah, now we can move on to the other view. So this current view is going to show the total as well as the total for this year, and it's going to hide all of the other ones. So you can do that a number of ways. You can either filter it to where the name does not contain, and then for example 2025, and then that one will be gone. Or it does contain 2025, or the other way, which is a little bit easier, is to just add a checkbox property, which will be called archived, and then this one can just be this box. And then here for 2025, we're going to select this because we don't want 2025 to show on this view. And then here we can just go to add filter, filter this to where the archived is unchecked. And then we can go ahead and duplicate this view, and this one will be all of them. So here you can remove this and it will show all of them, or you can do it the other way around where it will show all of the ones that you're not using, like all of the previous years, the past years, but I'm just going to keep it like this. So this is the current year and this just shows all of them. And then very importantly, for your finance tracker, you just want to go and edit both of these template buttons. And here inside of the template buttons, you want to add these overview database entries. So in this case, it would be total and 2024. And then you just want to do the same for this one, so that when you create new database entries, when you log new income or expenses, they will automatically relate to this and everything will update automatically. So now if I add this and add this amount in, then you'll see that everything will now update. So each year you just want to go inside of your template buttons and then just replace 2024 with 2025, and then do that for the following years as well. And if you forgot, let's say it's end of January, you forgot, you can just use this bulk edit option and then just filter it to only use, okay, all the database entries inside of this year, replace 2024 with 2025. Now for the charts, let's just go ahead and press enter. And then here we want to type in /2 columns, and we want to drag this into this one, this first one. And I'm just going to select this view and also just resize this to where this new button disappears. And then inside of this one, we want to add a chart. So in order to add the chart, you can either click on your database here, click copy link view, and then paste it, and then just change the view to a chart. Or you can type in /chart and then select which one you want. So I want the line chart, and then I want to connect it to my finance tracker, to this database. And then I'm also just going to remove the name by adding a space and also add this icon. So for this chart, we want to see the total profit over the year. So the x-axis would be the date property. And here we want to select month. And then the y-axis would be the profit property. And we want to select sum. So if I close out of this, then this should match these values. So 550, 400, and 4,000. 550, 400, and 4,000. So if I go ahead and, for example, just increase this, let's make this one 2,500, and let's make this one 1,500, then the value should be higher. And now the rest is pretty much just personal preference. You can go to more style options, and then here you can choose the height. So you can make this extra large, you can make it small. I'm just going to keep it medium. The grid lines, you can choose if you want to show it or not. You can show the vertical ones, the horizontal ones, or both. I'm just going to keep it on horizontal. You can show the axis name or not. So this will show date here. Y-axis will show profit there. You can show both of them, or you can hide them. You can choose to turn on smooth line. So let me just quickly go and change some of these database entries. So if I change this one to, let's say, 500, then you'll see that it goes down quickly and then goes back up. Then you'll clearly be able to see how the normal lines look. And if you turn on smooth line, then it's, well, a lot smoother. So I usually turn on smooth line. I keep on gradient area, which is the gradient. You can hide the legend, which would be this. So I usually hide this unless it's a pie chart. And then the data labels is the actual values that is being displayed. And then for color, you can change the color if you want. You can make it green. You can make it red, you can leave it on colorful, you can make it white if you want to. So that's just personal preference. I'm just going to keep it green. And yeah, now that we have our line chart, we can move on to the pie chart. So let's close out of this, click on plus, and then we're going to select chart. And then here we're again going to select our finance tracker database. And then I'm just going to remove the name, and I'm going to add in this minus icon for the expenses. And then we're just going to duplicate this for the income. So here on the pie chart, you can choose what data you want to show. So we want to show the expense sources. So each slice would be an expense source. And then here we want to go to expense amount and then click on sum. So now it will show the total expenses, and each slice would be a different expense source. As you can see here, food is yellow, software is blue. And if you want to change this, you can go to color. And then I'm going to just change this to red, and in more style options, I'm going to hide the legend, so you can hide it. And then what you can do is you can go to data labels, and then here you can show both the name and the value. So if you prefer this, you can do that, or you can just keep the value and then still show the legend here at the bottom. And then I also like to turn on this option, which is color by value. So whatever is the most will be the most bright color. And then for the income, we're going to do the same thing. So we're just going to duplicate this chart. And then here we're going to change the icon, and we're going to change this to income sources. We're going to select the income amount and the sum, and then we're going to change the color to green. And there you go. Now you got your income and expense sources, and also a chart showing your total profit over the year. And now if you only want to see this month's total income and expenses, you want to just filter this to where the date is relative to today and then this month. And then this will automatically just filter both of these views to only show this month's income and expenses. And there you go. Now you can see your total monthly expenses, income, the profit over the year, as well as the yearly income, expenses, profit, and taxes on this view, as well as the total of everything that you've added inside of your finance tracker. So we're just going to continue, and we're going to start off by creating a new table view database. So this database is going to be called budget tracker, and we're going to go ahead and delete the stack property, and of course just add a callout box, call this budget tracker, and then make the text bold, underline it, and change the text color, give it an icon, and then also just drag and drop this inside and hide the database title. And then we're also just going to create another empty block and then just drag it underneath. Alright, so for this budget tracker, we're actually not going to be using this exact database. What we're going to do is we're going to turn it into a page, and then we're going to drag and drop it here at the bottom because we want to create a linked view database. So I'm just going to create a toggle called backend, drag and drop this inside, and I'm going to do the same for the income sources. So turn it into a page, drag and drop it inside. Do the same for expense sources, turn it into a page, drag and drop it inside. We can also go ahead and give icons to them to just make it more aesthetic. So let's just give icons for this. I don't know why the emojis is not loading. Okay, so this one, let's just do that. And then this one for the expense sources. And we can go ahead and delete these because we're not gonna have them on that view. So as you can see here, we got the income and expense sources on the same database view. So we're going to just copy these. So copy this, copy link, and we're going to go here and then just paste it in. And then here we can go ahead and create a new view. So I'm going to just select table, and then we can link this to a different database. So this one, we already got the expense sources. Now we want the income sources. And let's just go ahead and select our database, which would be this one. And we can also select the view that we've already created. So I'm just going to select that one for now. We're going to change it. It's anyways going to be a table. But yeah, sort of just selecting that one. And then we also want to select our budget tracker. So let's just go ahead and find the budget tracker, which would be this one because it's the last page that we've interacted with. I think there's a lot of them, but I'm just going to select this one. Let's see if this is the correct one. So if I go here and then just add a database entry, let's just make sure. Yeah, there we go. And then for this budget tracker view, we're going to call this overview, and we're going to give it a chart icon. For the income and expense sources, we're not going to be using these views. So we're just going to change the layout to a table view, and we're going to call this income. And we can actually just keep that icon. And then we're also going to do the same for the expense sources. So we're just going to change this to a table and then just call this expenses. So now we basically got these three different databases on one database view. And what we're now going to do is we're first going to create the expense and income source properties, everything that we need for them, because they're going to link to the budget tracker. So we can't start with the budget tracker database. We first have to change these, and then everything will be related and connected with each other. All right, so the first property we're going to add for both of the income and expense sources is going to be a number property, which for the expense sources is going to be monthly budget. And here you just want to change the number format to your currency. And then you also want to give it an icon. So in this case, I'm just going to give it this bullseye icon. And then for the income sources, we're going to do the same thing. So we're just going to add a number property. This will be monthly goal. And then also just give it an icon and change the currency to whatever currency you're using. All right, so now we have a monthly goal. So let's just add a number in here. And then this one, I can do that. Or actually, let's make this lower. So let's do 1,000 there. And then for expenses, let's do this one 500. And let's do this one more. And yeah, now we have our monthly goals and budgets. And now we need to be able to calculate how much we've spent in this current month. So in order to see whether or not we are under or over budget or have achieved our income goal, we're going to have to create a current month property, which we then use in order to see the difference between them and to calculate the progress. And in order to do that, we're going to go inside of our finance tracker. So I'm just going to open up one of these database entries. And then here you just want to add a formula. And this formula is going to be called current month. And then inside of this formula, we're basically going to say that if the date property on this database entry matches our current month, then we want to show the profit property. So we're going to start off this formula by creating an if function. So if, and then the format date option, because the date property and the current month property, they're not going to be exactly the same. So we want to make sure that they're matching up. So format date, and then now, if you use this now function, then it will take the current date and time, like it shows here. So if we just use this, then it's going to give us all of this, but for this database entry, we're not using the time, so they won't be matching up. That's why we want to format them the same. So we're going to use this now function, which will give us all of this. And then we're basically saying that we want to format this to month, month, month. Actually, we just have to add a comma there. So this actually does not matter as long as they're the same. So we want to format it according to this. It can be 2 months. It can be like 2 Ys. It just displays differently. One of them just shows numbers. One of them shows the actual text, like the month's name. So it doesn't really matter as long as this is the same as the next one. So once you have this, then what you want to do is just before this bracket, you want to say equals. So at the moment, this is basically saying if our current date and time, which only shows the month and the year, it's not showing the day or the time. If this is the same as, and then we're going to also format the actual date property, which would be this one. If these two are the same, like we're going to format them, so month, month, year, year, just make sure these are the same. So if they match up, so if our current date and time matches up with this one in terms of the year and the month, then you want to show the profit. So then we want to show the profit property. Otherwise, we just want to show 0. So we can go ahead and click on done. And if we now add a value for the income or expenses, which will then show the profit, then we'll get the value here. And we also just want to go into the number format and change it to your currency. So if this formula works, then if I change this to a different month and year, so this can either be September 4, which is the same month, but if it's a different year, then it's not going to show. But we can also do it the other way around. So if it's the same year, but a different month, then it's also not going to show, because we're taking and only using the month and the year for both of these. So for both the current date and time, and then also the actual date property on this one. So it needs to be in the same month and year in order for anything to show up here. And this property, you can just click on it and then just hide it here. So you can go to property visibility and then just always hide, and then it will be hidden. So on the income and expense sources, what we're going to do is create a formula, and this one is going to be called current month. So you don't want to use a roll-up in this example, because you want to remove the minus in the beginning, and for that you need to do a formula. So I'll show you what I mean later. So just use the map function. This basically allows you to go into a related database. So map the finance tracker relation, so this relation property, and then we want to use current, so just comma current, and then it will allow you to choose one of the properties from the related database. So just add a dot, and then we want to choose the current month formula that we just created on this database, and then we want to get the sum of it. So this you can do with a rollup. So if I click on done, then you'll see the values here. We can also just change this to US dollar, but you can see there's a minus in the beginning for all the expenses. So all you want to do is inside of the formula, just add another function called abs, and then that will remove the minus in the beginning. And there you go. Now we can see our total that we've spent for our current month. So if I go ahead and add another one here, let's just do 1000. If this has today's date, then it will show up there. So I need to first just link it with one of the expense sources. So it should show up here. So now if I go ahead and create a new database entry, let's just do $1,000 and link this to one of these expense sources, then it will show up in the current month here. But if I change the date to last month, then it will not show here. And then we're going to do the same thing for the income sources. So let's just copy this, go to income, and then here we're just going to create a formula, current month, and then just also give this an icon, and then literally just paste in that formula and change the number format to the US dollar. So on the expense sources, just go ahead and create a new formula and call this progress. And then inside of the formula, we're basically just going to take the current month and divide it by the monthly budget. And now we have our percentage values. So if you change the number format to percentage, it will show the percent. And you can now select a progress bar or a progress ring. But if you also want to remove the decimals, then just put all of this inside of brackets. So just put all of this in brackets, and then in the front, just add a round function, another open bracket, and then at the end, you just want to multiply it with 100, and then also divide everything with 100 in order to just get rid of the decimals. And for some reason the name didn't change, so I'm just going to press enter here again, and I'm also going to change the icon. And as you can see, it now shows our total progress. And what I'm going to do is just highlight this and go to income sources, create another formula called progress, also add an icon, and then for this one I'm going to paste it in and just replace monthly budget with monthly goal, and then also just do the same, which is turn this into percentage and then select the progress ring. So now that we got our progress, the next formula that we're going to add is going to be this one that shows how much we're still under our budget or goal and whether or not we've achieved it. So go ahead and create a new formula. This one will be called remaining, and this one I'm just going to give a circle icon. And then inside of this formula, we're going to start off with the let's function. So if you want to learn Notion formulas, I have a whole formula series, 3-part formula series going over 9 different formulas. So you can just check that out. The link will be in the description. So I'm not going to cover everything in detail now, but I am going to explain what formulas I'm using and why. So we're going to start off with a let's function, which basically just allows you to set a variable so that you don't have to repeat the same thing every time. You just create it once and then just name this thing as this word, and then you can just use the word instead of the whole line of text. So in this case, the word, the variable is going to be budget, and every time we use this variable, we want to take the monthly budget and then we want to subtract the current month from it. And then we're just going to add a comma, shift enter to just add the bracket at the end. And we're going to add an empty function because we're going to say that if the monthly budget is empty, then don't show anything. So we don't want anything to show. So if I just click on done and add another source, then here the monthly budget is empty. So then we want it to show empty. It's not showing anything else anyways, but this part already works. So basically if the monthly budget here is empty, we don't want anything to show here. Then next we're going to say if it's not this, so if it's not empty, then show the following. So again, just shift enter. I'm also just going to delete this. And then here we want to say if the budget, which would be this variable, so if the difference between the monthly budget and current month is greater than 0, then show the budget variable, which would be the difference between them. So if this monthly budget is not empty and it is more than the current month, and then show the difference between them. That's essentially what this part is. So if I click on done, then this one will show 300 because this one is more than this and the difference is 300. And now we just need to do this one, which would be if the progress is 100%. And because that's the only other option, so it's either empty, the monthly budget is either more than the current month, or you've achieved your goal, aka either the same or the monthly budget would be less. But in that case, you still have achieved your monthly budget or income goal. So because it's the third option, we don't have to do another whole if statement. We can just say, otherwise, if it's not any of this, then show the text limit reached, and then just style this and make it bold, as well as change the color to red. So now if I click on done, then you'll see that here it says limit reached. And even if this is less, it will still show limit reached because that's the third option. You can do another one where if this is less, then it will show $100 over budget, but we're going to do that for the overview section. So I don't feel it's necessary here because you'll see the budget here as well. So yeah, that's the 3 different options. Now you might have noticed that this 300 is not $300. And if you want to change it, you can do a whole complex formula, or you can just hack Notion a little bit and you can copy this, remove it, and then you can select one of the number values. So I'm just going to do monthly budget as an example. And then here, all you want to do is just change this property to the currency, so US dollar. So because this is a number format and we change it to US dollar, it now shows like that. And now what we can do is we can just remove this, put back in our formula, click on done, and now it will automatically show in that currency format. And me figuring this out is simply just the result of me spending way too much time inside of Notion. Alright, so now that you got your remaining formula, we're pretty much done with the expense sources, and we're going to go to the income sources and then just do the same thing. So formula, this will be called remaining, and then I'm also just going to give it an icon. And before I add in the formula, let's just do the same thing. So add monthly goal, change this to the US dollar or whatever currency you're using, and then just remove this, paste everything in. And then here you just want to replace monthly budget with monthly goal, this one as well. So replace monthly budget with monthly goal. And then instead of limit reached, we want goal achieved, and the text need to be green. So now if I click on done, then you'll see the amount remaining. So let's just change this to the same. Goal achieved, this still shows how much is remaining, and the empty one will not show anything. Now that's pretty much it for the income and expense sources. I'm just going to change these around, and I've also resized the properties. And yeah, now that we're finished with this, we can go ahead and create our overview section. So to just give you an overview, we're adding our database entries into the finance tracker, and then that information gets pulled to the income and expense sources, and then that information gets pulled to the overview database. So when you create your own Notion templates, you want to think of it as how are you pulling information instead of pushing information. So you don't want to start with this. You want to start with where you're inputting the information and then just pull everything from that to the top level database, which would be this one in this example. All right, now for the budget tracker. Here, you want to just add in your different pillars. So in this case, I'm going to do business, personal, savings, and investments. So I just need to add another property and call this one investments. You can obviously add more. You can do with it what you want. Just make sure that when we add the percentages that it adds up to 100%. But yeah, just add in all of your pillars and then just add icons for them. All right, so once you have icons and your 4 pillars, we're going to go and create a number property, which will be our budget percentage. And for this number property, you want to turn it into percentage and then select a progress bar and also change the color to red and also just give it an icon. So I'm just going to use this chart icon. And then inside of this budget percentage property, you want to just allocate the percentages. So let's say 30% goes to business, 30% goes to personal, 20% goes to savings, and 20% goes to investments. Actually, let's just change these because they're going to be the same. So let's make this one 40, and yeah, these can stay the same, so they're all different. And I'm just going to resize this, and then at the bottom, just go to more options and click on sum, and make sure that it adds up to 100%. All right, so next what we want is we want to be able to see, okay, this is how much we're making, the income for the current month. 40% of that is in the budget, so that will be one of the properties. The other one will be how much we're actually spending, so the expenses for the current month. And then from those, you get the remaining, like if you're under budget or over budget. So to start, we're going to create a relation and we're going to link it to the income sources, make it show up on income sources as well. And then also just relate this to the expense sources and make it show up there as well. And then I'm also just going to give an icon for these. So this one is just going to be an up arrow and this one is going to be a down arrow. And for the income sources, you want to relate all of the income sources to all of these 4 pillars. So I'm just going to delete this empty one for both of them. And then for the income ones, you want to relate all of them to all of them. So I'm just going to bulk edit this, click on income sources, and then just select both of these relations. And when you add more income sources, you just want to make sure to relate them to these as well. And once all of your income sources are related, you can go ahead and hide this property. And what you also want to do is just open this up and then just click on income sources and show as minimal, show the expenses as minimal as well. So it just disappears. And then you want to open up these and then just do the same thing, show as minimal. So it shows here at the bottom. And then for the expenses, you want to do the same. So just show this as minimal as well. Now for the expense sources, it's a bit different because some of the expense sources will be relating to business. Some of them will be personal, like this example. So here you just want to show the budget tracker relation and also just give it an icon. So I'm just going to give it this icon. And then software would be a business expense. Food, that would be personal. And then here for expense sources, you also want to add another one, which will be for your savings. And here you want to just add an icon. So I'm just going to use the same icon. And this one you want to relate to savings. So on your finance tracker, when you put money away for your savings, then you just want to add that in and then just link the expense source with savings, and then it will show up here once we add these properties. These icons also doesn't have to be the same. You can change it, like you can do, for example, 3 or something, because it's growing, hopefully. And then you can also add ones for investments. So if you, let's say you have crypto, that would be one. Let's say stocks, that would be one. And then both of these, you would just link to investments. So let's just do that. So I have one of each. For crypto, I'm just going to give a money icon. It's important to add icons to everything so it looks nice. So you actually want to use this dashboard. Stocks, same thing. Let's do, I guess, a bar chart or something. So I'm just going to use this one. And yeah, now that we have one for each of the 4 pillars, we can go ahead and create the rest of the properties. So let's go ahead and hide the expense sources relation and then create a new property, which will be a rollup. And this will be to get the current month. Here I'm just going to select an icon. I'm going to use this one and then select the expense sources. And then we're going to use the current month of the expense sources and calculate the total of it. So basically what's showing here is for this month of September, we've spent $500 on software, which is related to the business pillar. So we've spent $500 in total on business. We spent $500 on personal savings. We can actually just change the values so they're not all the same. If I go here and, for example, change food to, let's do this one, 300, then you'll see that all of these will change. And for investments, so for investments, we got 2 different ones. So if I add another one here, let's do 100 and make this crypto, and then do another one for 200 and make this stocks, then both of these will show up. So if I go here, then you'll see that for investments, we've spent a total of 300, but for each of the individual expense sources, we've spent 100 and 200, but they're both relating to this pillar. So it shows the total here. And obviously, if it's not in the month of September, then it's not going to show up. So it only shows the current month's values. Okay, cool. We got the current month. Now let's go ahead and create the actual budget. So this is again going to be a formula, and this one is going to be called monthly budget, and we're going to give it this bullseye icon. And again, the reason we're not using a rollup for the income one, which should be this, is because we want to calculate the budget base of this property. So there's a bit more to this. So in this case, we want to use the map function. We want to go into the income sources database, use the current, and then we want to select the current month. So this would be how much we've made that month with each of the income sources. So if I just click on this, then you'll see the values here. So as you can see here, for the month of September, we've made a total of $5,000. I can just go ahead and add a sum function to get the actual total. And basically what we want to show is not 5,000 across all of them, but 40% of 5,000 here, 30% of 5,000 here, etc. So let's go ahead and do that now. So basically what we want to do is just multiply this with the budget percentage like that. And as you can see, 40% of 5,000 is 2,000. So we got all of these values. And then we can also just change this to the US dollar. And as you can see, we now got our monthly budget. So here for business this month, our budget is $2,000. We've spent 500. For personal, it's 1.5. We spent 300. And now the last formula that we're going to create is to basically just get the difference between them and then to show how much we're under or over budget. So go ahead and create another formula, which will be called remaining. And again, for this one, we're also just going to give it an icon. So I'm going to use the same icon. And then we're going to start this formula off with another let's function. And we're again just going to shift enter the closing bracket. And then for this first variable, this one is going to be called monthly amount. And this one is going to take the monthly budget and it's going to subtract the current month from it. And then we're also going to set another variable, which is going to be called over budget. And this one is basically just going to be the reverse. So we're going to take the current month and we're going to subtract the monthly budget from that and also just add a comma and then shift enter to start with the formula. So we're again going to start off with an ifs function and we're going to say if the monthly budget is empty, so this one, if the monthly budget is empty, then just show nothing, otherwise, and then I'm just going to shift enter this closing bracket as well to the end. Otherwise, if the monthly amount variable, which would be the difference between them, if the monthly amount is 0, then show a check mark emoji. You can change this to whatever you want. I'm just going to keep it simple and use a check mark. So this is basically if the current month and monthly budget are the exact same. It's not over budget, it's not under budget. If they're the same, then show a check mark. Otherwise, if the monthly amount is over 0, then show the monthly amount. Otherwise, if it's none of these, so if it's not empty, it's not the same, and it's not under budget, then it's going to be over budget. So then show over budget. Now, if I go ahead and click on done, then you'll see that we got all of these values, and let's just go ahead and change some of them. So in order to change them, we have to do it here. So let's do this one, which should be investments. So let's match this. So monthly budget is 500. So let's change this one to 500. As you can see, it shows a check mark. Next, savings. So this one would be this. Let's make this one over budget. So I'm going to do this one 1,250. So this will be over budget. And then these would be under budget. So basically what we're going to do now is we're going to add a dollar symbol next to this. We can't change the property to the dollar value because we're going to change the color of these. So then it's not going to be seen as a number property anymore. It's going to be seen as a text property. So we have to add it manually. So the dollar symbol, and then we're going to change these to green and this one to red, because this one is over budget and these are under budget. So let's open up this, and then here in the front of the monthly amount and the over budget, so we're going to change these two. So this one, we're going to add a open bracket, add the dollar symbol, add a plus because we want to connect them with each other. And then here at the end, we want to close this off with a closing bracket. And then we want to add a style function, and we want to make this bold, and we also want to change the color to green. And then for over budget, we're going to do the same thing. So I'm actually just going to take this first part, copy and paste it in, and then take the second part and also just paste this in and change the color to red. So now if I click on done, then you'll see that we got our under budget and also the check mark. And there you go. Now you can see how much you have remaining for each of these pillars. What you can also do is you can go here and then just click on sum in order to calculate them. You can't do it for this one because it's text values, not numbers. And yeah, you can now see how much you have remaining for each of your pillars and your monthly goals, your monthly expense budgets. Let's just also change this one so it shows there. And yeah, you can now basically budget and track all of your income and expenses. So importantly, just make sure that you relate all of your new income sources to all of these 4 pillars and also your new expenses to the relevant pillar. And there you go. Now you have your very own Notion budget tracker. So here we have the finance tracker that we created in parts 1, 2, 3, and 4 of this finance tracker series. So yeah, if you followed all of these videos, you should have something that looks like this. So here at the bottom, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new page, and this one is going to be called mobile, if I can spell correctly, mobile expenses. And I'm just going to give it an icon. So let's just give it a red icon. Let's do a money one. Let's just do this one. And it's super simple. What we're going to do, we're literally just going to create a button, and this button is going to be called expense, and we're going to give it an icon. So I'm just going to use this one as well. And then we're going to add pages to, and then we want to select our finance tracker. So our finance tracker database, select the expense template button. The date is going to be today, and yeah, you can leave the rest just blank. Or you can, if you're only going to log expenses with this specific bank account, let's say it's when you're grocery shopping or something, it's always going to be debit, it's never going to be PayPal, then you can automatically add that one in. You can also create different ones. So let's say this is just for an expense. Let's say this is for groceries. So let's do groceries, maybe log groceries, and this one can maybe have like a cart emoji or something. If I can spell cart, then let's just do this one. And then here for this one, you can also include a name. So the name can be groceries, for example, and you can also link an expense source because this would be food, this would be groceries. So you can do it like that as well. You can have different buttons for different types of expenses. So let's just do this. And then what you also want to do is once you have it, you want to just add another step which will be to open this page. So then here you just select the page, the new page added, which would be this one, and then you want to open it in a full page like that. And we're going to do the same here. Add another step, open page, new page added, and then this would be full page. Because yeah, you want to open it as a full page because you still have to add in the actual value, the actual number. So that's what we're doing here. So if I click on this, it will add a new expense to my finance tracker and it will open up the page. So here I can add in the expense name. I can like add in however much that was. I can link it to a source. And if I go back to the finance tracker, so if I just go back here, then under expenses, it will now show because it has today's date. So yeah, that's pretty much how to add expenses. We can also actually just change this one to the phone one so it looks nicer on the phone. You can also add a cover if you want. And yeah, once you've got this set up, you can now go to your phone and then we're literally just going to add this as a widget. So let me show you how to do that on the phone. Alright, so on the phone, if it's iPhone, you just want to hold in on the screen, and it's sort of the same process for Android as well. I did have an Android phone until I switched to Apple, which is much better. But you can just check in my full Notion course on YouTube in the mobile section. There I show how to do it with both phones. So Android and iPhone, I show how to use Notion for both of them. But anyways, on the iPhone, you just hold in on the screen, on the home screen, click on the plus at the top, and then go to Notion, select Notion, add widget, and then here, just select done, hold on the widget, click on edit widget, and then just select your workspace. So I'm going to select this one, and then for the page name is going to be mobile expenses, if I can spell correctly. So let me just try that again. Mobile expenses. And then once you find your page, just select it, tap out, and then your page should show up. And then you can just go ahead and click on this widget and you'll see that we have our two buttons here. And then it's pretty much self-explanatory. When you're on the go and you're buying something, you just open up your phone, click on this widget, click on expense, and then you just give this thing a name. You give the expense amount, so let's just say 60 bucks. The expense source, this was, let's say, software. And then you go out, and you can also, if you just go back and tap on it again, it will go back to this page, log groceries, so it will already have the expense source and the name, and you can just go ahead and give an amount. And now on the computer, if I go back to my finance tracker, then you'll be able to see that those database entries now shows up here on our finance tracker. And that's pretty much it for this mobile expenses page. But if you want to go the extra step, then what you can also do is you can go ahead and create a chart. So you can create a donut chart and then just link this with your finance tracker. And then here you can just remove the name, and you can just, I'm just going to keep it on this normal icon because it is a chart. And then here for data, you want to select expense source, and each slice should represent expense and then sum, so the total expenses. The color you want to make red, or if you want to use a different color, that's fine as well. I'm not forcing anyone to use red, but you can basically just customize this however you want. You can change these, you can color them by value. You can choose to show or hide the legend and what you want to display here. So I'm just going to use the value option there and show the legend. And yeah, you can filter this according to the current month. So filter this to where the start date is relative to today and then this month, and then it will show this month's expenses. So every time you log an expense, you're aware that, okay, it's adding to this overall number, and that way you're conscious about how much you're spending because you are like feeling the number going up and the number increasing as you log your groceries or your expenses. And obviously this will also show up on the phone. I don't think I have to do another whole recording to show you, but yeah, you see the chart on your phone. So when you open up your mobile page, you're aware of how much you've spent so far this month on which categories, and then you can just click the buttons to quickly log a new expense and see this number go up, which is always nice. And there you go. Now you have a full Notion budget tracker. If this video was at all useful, then be sure to give it a like. And if you want to master Notion once and for all, then be sure to click the video that's on the screen now for my full Notion course. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.